What if the most powerful leap that we can make into the future of work is to discuss the undiscussables? I have spent my entire life in pursuit of and in service of difficult questions. And for some of my life, I was getting it wrong. At 24, I was the youngest manager on the composing room floor of the New York Times. And I walked in this cavernous room, and I saw hundreds of ex-linotype operators who I thought should have been fired a long time ago, being kept on as not very good paste-up artists. And I saw this as feather bedding. And in my questions, when I was trying to figure out how work got done at the Times, I guess my attitude kind of came out. Because nobody ever said anything. But what happened was they waited for me to break a rule. And one of the rules was management was not allowed to touch the type. So at one point, I went just with just my fingertip, can we move this from here to here? Foreman, foreman! Suddenly, several hundred guys are all leaving the composing room floor, and for 20 minutes, they're debating whether or not to shut down the paper. Now, as I stood alone in this huge room, soiling my pants, the only thing I could think about was all the other New York papers, the headline the next day, "Stupid kid shuts down New York Times." It was right around then that I began to realize what I was getting wrong when I asked difficult questions. What I was missing was empathy, truly caring for and about the people who are dealing with difficult truths. So for more than a quarter century, I have conducted research all over the globe under that guiding principle, exploring the difficult truths that we all need to go through as we try to change ourselves and our organizations. Two key choices that everybody in the room is going to face. And I don't mean, do we put in this learning management system? I don't mean, what is our strategic plan? I mean personal choices. For what I'm about to take you through, there is no right or wrong. There's no debating the trends that I'm going to share with you. They are happening. What I want to share with you is, what are you going to do about them? There is baby Clifford. Isn't he cute? That turtle on his onesie is not just a turtle. It's part of the Internet of Things. That turtle is connected to Mom's app, and Mom can tell his heartbeat, whether or not he's lying on his back, can tell whether he's coughing. It's not just a sound monitor. It is part of the Internet of Things. Clifford's data, a whole bunch of his vitals, are being recorded. This is a product out now, put out there by Mimo. This is a clue as to what we're all going to be going through. Because Clifford's mom and dad, they have an app, and isn't it cute? We know how he's breathing, we know if he's coughing, we know his heartbeat. Clifford's leadership team is collecting data without Clifford's permission and using it to determine what is in Clifford's best interest. See where I'm heading? The one on the right is Iron Man. What's the one on the left? Minority Report. These are two different views of the next 5 years. Iron Man is like Google Glass. That data is streaming to the individual, and the individual gets to decide what to do with it. Minority Report, on the other hand, starring Tom Cruise, had pre-crime police, and they were using data to figure out who might commit a crime in the future. This is not science fiction. Earlier this year, Chase Manhattan Bank released an app for its traders, because these guys can make trades of millions of dollars at a time and lose the bank millions and billions. All traders are now required to use this app. It looks at their scores on ethics training. It looks at all their emails. It looks at the conferences they go to. It looks at the pattern of their behaviors through their data to predict which of their traders might create fraud. This is a real-time example of what you're going to be facing. Now, if this were just evil versus good, this would be a no big deal. There isn't a company in an organization, a person in this room, that really needs to worry about evil versus good. What this is really about is corporate-centered versus individual-centered. Who is in charge of the data for determining what they're going to do the next day? I'll give you an example from the consumer world. A couple years ago, Target pissed off a dad because they sent to his teenage daughter, on the phone and in circulars that came into the house, advertisements for her specifically to buy a crib and to buy onesies and all that other stuff. And Dad was ticked. He actually thought of filing a suit against Target. How dare you accuse my daughter of being pregnant? Guess what? Target knew before Dad did. Based on her purchase of unscented lotion, vitamin supplements, and cotton balls, they knew that women between X age and X age who bought those things were most likely in their second trimester. Now, if you apply that in our world, that data is coming in. How is it being used right now? My BMI, body mass index, is much worse than yours, so I'm going to have to pay more for health care. The chips that are going to go into my seat are going to know whether or not I got up enough, so I'm going to have to pay more for health care. The way we're using data is extremely corporate-centered. We are entering an age where you, the CLOs and the heads of training and development, it is possible for you to create very, very tailored training and development for each individual. The question is, will you? Will we as a community, and what will we stand up for? Are we going to be in force for corporate use of this data, where we're making sure that all the company's needs are getting made? Or are we going to be, as a community, a force for being far more learner-centered than we ever have been in the history of what we do? Will we stand up when every senior team wants to say, we want more out of that worker, we want more out of that worker, corporate-centered? Will we stand up and be, well, if we want them to do more, we have to invest in each individual more? What will your legacy be when people budgets keep getting cut back and efficiency and costs keep getting driven? Will you take a stand? The millennials and Gen Zers are asking, who will be our advocate? What will you do about this? We asked a question that most people don't ask on their surveys. We asked 7,000 people around the globe, how many of you can achieve your dreams where you currently work? 9.8% said, yes, I can achieve my dreams where I currently work. Now, actually, to be fair, the data was better than that. It was actually 29%, but then when we cut out senior executives and we cut out startup companies, entrepreneurial situations, mainstream workforce. And why this is so important, when we took this finding and then we started interviewing millennials and Gen Zers, they see companies, Mike mentioned it earlier, it's not just their tenure that's at companies. They see companies, the way millennials and Gen Zers are looking at the workplace right now, is like a software app. I'm going to put this on my phone, and if it helps me achieve what I want to achieve efficiently and I have fun doing it, then I'm going to keep it. They're looking at companies that way. Will you help me, this is why tailoring is so important, will you help me achieve my goals and dreams? Not the company's, mine. I will come work for you if you help me succeed as a person. Not as a person under your employment. If you help me succeed, that's how I'll come work for you. So the people who want to come work for you will want to achieve their dreams and goals. And part of our learning and development needs to be empowering that, needs to be understanding what are your dreams and goals. Other insights on personal legacy. You're being handed a talent time bomb. Who would like to share? Yes.
So I think it's about improving the human experience. We talked a lot about technology, and we'll talk more about it tomorrow, of course. But I think we are losing sight of that we're all here to work together, right? So we're losing sight of the fact that the human beings are still part of work, and that we have a responsibility to continue to improve that experience.
My researchers and I went around the world asking 7,000 people one question. What makes you, you? We asked them to tell us stories, and then we compared the stories they told us to how they made business choices. And the leaders with the thoughtful courage had an alignment with their personal values and the business choices. We ended up standing on the shoulders of Warren Bennis, who wrote about crucible moments. We asked people about their crucible moments in their lives and how that carried through into their business decisions. So one quick example, B'nai Dara Abrams is a pioneer in e-learning. And I was holding a San Francisco-based Future of Work salon. It was just about 25 of us sitting at somebody's house, having dinner and talking. And there was no tape, it was, nobody was twittering, it was just deeply personal stories. And we're going around the room, and we're telling these deeply personal stories. And B'nai was sitting on the sidelines. She really didn't want to share this. It's something she normally didn't share. But it really influenced how she thinks about e-learning, about how human we are. And she began sharing her story. She says, well, I grew up in Princeton, New Jersey in the 1950s, and I lived down the street from Uncle Al, and I loved playing with Uncle Al. Got down on the floor with him, played puzzles, and he taught me about creativity. He taught me how to learn. It was the most exciting way to learn with Uncle Al, and she made it clear he was not related. She was just taught to be respectful of family friends who were adults, so everybody who was an adult was either uncle or aunt. So she got down on the floor with Uncle Al, and he played with her, and he taught her how to be curious, how to think, how to imagine, how to create. And that created in her an intensity, desire to help other people learn how to learn. And it was pivotal, even as a little child, it was pivotal to what she does now and how she makes decisions. And she continued her story, saying a couple years later, Uncle Al, after this experience, passed away. And she goes to the funeral, and then she goes up to her father and says, why didn't you tell me that Uncle Al was Albert Einstein? She was learning how to learn from Albert Einstein. When you debate within yourselves these kind of questions, I would ask you to please get out of the academic, get out of the corporate. Be personal. When we asked everybody why they do what they do, suddenly there was an intensity of how they would make the decisions that I just shared with you. One of my goals is to always end early, to give back a little bit of time to you. But here's my request of you. I'll stop with at least 2.5 minutes of my time. I'm going to give it back to you. Please use that to tell somebody you love them. Tell somebody they matter. 2 minutes back to you so that you can make a difference to somebody in their life today. Thank you for the time.